Well, this week the Productivity Commission released a fairly grim snapshot of the education sector. School refusal is on the rise and high school dropouts are at record highs.
Yeah, 1 in 5 students aren't finishing their full 13 years of school. But is this in itself a huge cause for concern? Pasi Sahlberg is a Professor of Educational Leadership at the University of Melbourne and the former Director General of Finland's Ministry of Education and joins us now. Good morning, Pasi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
If I can start with that first stat, the one that, got all the headlines, that got people alarmed. 1 in 5 students aren't finishing their full 13 years of school. How problematic is that?
Well, it may sound problematic for Australia. And of course, if that would be a real figure in the end, that would be a problem. But these completion rates are very difficult to actually calculate because many young people who may leave the school, but then they come back. And the OECD, for example, that is counting these numbers a little bit later in the young people's lives at the age of 24, for example, come up with a very different figures. But here in Australia, I think we need to keep in mind that we are in many areas, very much like the OECD on average, and in many areas actually doing better than the OECD. But of course, this number is something that is a call for action here, and we need to pay more attention to this.
Well, do we know where these kids are going? Because if they're actually deciding come year 10 that they're not interested in perhaps university education and they want to start a trade or an apprenticeship, is that such a bad thing if kids are leaving in year 10 to start a trade because we know that there's a skills shortage out there?
Yeah, this is absolutely correct. And this is happening not only here in Australia, but around the world more and more, that young people can learn the skills and knowledge they need for what they want to do in their lives elsewhere. So they don't need really school as they used to do when I was young or you were young. And that's why I think we should not judge the young people if they find their passion in their lives and want to become entrepreneurs or artists or whatever they want to do. And leave the school. Many of the famous entrepreneurs actually have done that and become very successful. So I think it's more important to make sure that young people really know what they want to do and that they can follow their passion. And then the school system, education system should follow, these passions.
What do you make of the target set by the Education Minister, Jason Clare? 55% of young people will have degrees by 2035. Is that a good idea? And is it realistic? Does it look at what the students actually want?
This target is very much similar that the OECD countries, again, on average, have set up. Finland, United States, many European countries have the similar aims. I think it's very, very important that the targets are ambitious. And 55% of young people, depending a little bit how it's calculated. But if we take the checkpoint, for example, somewhere where the OECD again is using 29 at the age of 29, that 55% of young people would have some type of tertiary education degree. I think that it's a good target. We probably don't get exactly there, but I think it's still good to aim high and fail, then aim low and succeed.
Yeah. So why do you think retention is sliding here in Australia? Are the school classrooms and the systems and the syllabus engaging enough? And if they're not, how do we make them more engaging?
Yeah, the lack of engagement is probably the biggest issue here. And again, if it helps Australians, it's exactly the same challenge everywhere around the world. It's harder and harder to make the school a place where children, young people would really feel home and safe and engaging. If we look at the sense of belonging that the OECD again is counting in different countries around the world, here in Australia we have seen approximately 20 percentage point decline since 2003 in students, 15-year students' sense of belonging, which kind of indicates that schools are becoming places where young people feel harder and harder to kind of feel that the school is the place where they really want to be. We still have the sense of belonging or engagement figures here in Australia quite good. So they stand on average somewhere around 80%. So 4 out of 5 Australian kids feel that they like to be in school. But I think the alarming thing here is that the longer young people spend in school, the lower the engagement tends to be. So we really need to look at the the later years, the high school, and think about how we can transform that part of education in a place where all or most young people really would like to be.
And no doubt COVID played into a bit of that decline, as well as it not being that place that everyone needed to go to for some time, and the getting that back into the domain has been a challenge, I understand. Pasi Sahlberg, we could talk for a lot longer, but I'm afraid we are out of time. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
Thanks for your time.